we want to be there and be helpful, to those individuals. And so I've told them to do all they can in that respect. And that's going to be important, because if we're able to slow the virus's spread here in Florida, and we can minimize some of the economic harm in the meantime, it will make it easier for us to roar back. I think the fundamentals were great for this state, and I think they can still be, but we can't have people just totally thrown out with nowhere to go. And so that's going to be a big concern of mine. I want to thank the Congress, Senator Rubio and some of his colleagues for working hard on a relief package. And I also want to thank a lot of our private businesses here who are putting in money for different types of community endeavors, to help some of the folks who are going to be dislocated or have been dislocated by this. We, because of our status as a place where people would go to Disney or go to all these places, a lot of that is closed now. And so it's going to really, really hit a lot of folks very hard. And, we've got to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. I'll let Jared ask the second. So yes, if you take, you guys can correct me, but if you take the swabs accurately and there's no contamination, that would be 4,000 different tests, correct? Yes. It's interesting, when they used to do it, they would make you run the different samples, except now you can combine them in one. I know more about this testing in the last 3-4 weeks than I ever thought I would ever know. So yes, so that's the goal. We want to get more swabs down here. If we could get even half of what we've ordered delivered to Florida, we really could rock and roll, because we could have tens of thousands in South Florida, and we could do 10,000 in some of these others, work through that, put more into the kitty, and really help us, I think, get a better sense of what's going on here. So, here's one thing I think people should know, and I've talked to Jared about it. Once all this started happening, we declared an emergency pretty early. Jared immediately went out and started to buy all this stuff, or at least order it. But what happened was there are people out there that are like venture capitalists who are just buying this up, and then they turn it around and sell it for a profit on the market. That just has put an additional crunch onto the things that are out there. And so I think you're in a situation where we were told out of the 500,000 that we were going to get 250,000 swabs this week. And I think they've given us like 4,000 or 5,000 of the swabs, and so we're waiting for more. HHS we think is sending swabs. They don't really, we have good ways to track it, but Jared may end up getting 5,000 more swabs dropped on his doorstep over the next day or two. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. We anticipate that we will at least get them in dribs and drabs, but if we could get a real big shipment in, that would really help us be able to not only turn it up here in Broward, we could do Dade, Palm Beach County, but then get some of these other areas around the state. And I think that what we ideally would like to do, if we could really have the supplies that you need, is start to do some sentinel screening, surveillance type testing like they do with the flu, where they're seeing how prevalent it is in the population. If we could do that with some of the younger folks who are under 50, who tend not to get hospitalized on this, that will give us a better sense of who actually is out there carrying this, because we don't really, I think, have a good sense of that right now. But that is definitely information we need, and that would very much inform how you're going about doing all these things. I can take one more, and then I got to get back on the road. Well, not under my order. So we did an order, no gatherings on beaches, 10 or more. So what you've seen now is a lot of the sheriff's departments have instituted protocols. I had the Brevard sheriff. He had his deputies on ATVs. They had a boat going down the coast, and they're telling people you got to disperse. Cocoa Beach, major spring break destination, went down 70% since my order. And so I think that's a more prudent approach to do social distancing. I just spoke to the U.S. Surgeon General about it, and here's the thing. They want you to social distance, of course, but they actually encourage people to get fresh air. They just don't want you congregating in big groups. And so if you have a Floridian that goes walks their dogs like a married couple on the beach, as long as you're not within 6 feet of each other, they view that, and that's a healthy thing. And so I think it's important to allow that, if the local communities want to do it, to be able to do it. We're also in a situation where we have counties who have no community spread. We have some counties that don't have a single positive test yet. And so I don't want to be in a situation where we're diverting people unwittingly into activities that are going to be more dangerous for passing the virus. But I've stood by every local community, the Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, we're backing them. Mayor Jimenez just did it. That's great if that's good for them. But I also think we're going to be in a situation where if people are able to go out and be spaced out, so these are not spring break. These are our neighbors who may need to go out there, clear their head, because a lot of people are on edge right now. And this is going to be obviously a physical challenge with the virus, but I think it's really weighing on a lot of people. And I want the localities to have an outlet available if they think that makes sense. But since I issued my directive, anybody who's put that in place, spring break's done. Any place to go for bars and all this, done. They don't have a place to go. But I would also say what we're finding is when we did the universities and we extended their time away for 2 weeks, we were thinking, don't come back yet. Instead, they all went back and they were drinking in the bars every night. So then we shut the bars down. Well, guess what they did then? They went to the fraternity houses and doing that. And so there's certain things we can do, but I think as Jared said, some of the folks just need to be responsible and heed the advice that people are doing. But that's part of the thing. So with the order tomorrow, Palm Beach and Broward have asked that the beaches be included in that, so we're going to do it. The rest are required to do social distancing, and I can tell you that has been effective where it has been implemented. So we're going to ask the Sheriff of Brevard to put out the best practices for the communities on that. And then this way they can figure out and monitor how things are going, and they can make decisions if they want to be more stringent. Of course you can be more stringent. But I think when people put out some of these pictures that were at the beginning of the weekend when CDC's guidance said 250 people is fine, time changed radically in 72 hours. And so we've responded. A lot of local communities have responded. And so I think that's a prudent approach. And it also recognizes that our state is vast. It's very diverse. I mean, I can go from Pensacola to St. Louis in about the same time I could drive from Pensacola to Miami. I mean, that's just the reality of what we're dealing with here. But we will absolutely work with the locals to effectuate policy that they think makes sense, and we're going to do that tomorrow when we issue the order with the Broward and Palm Beach communities, and we're happy to work with them. And as part of that order, I think what I want to do is also delegate the local administrators the authority to tailor that as circumstances change, because I think this is a very dynamic situation. I think that we get new information every day. This testing could give us new vital information that we need, and I think they want to have the freedom to be able, to have the policies in place that are going to make the most sense. But you're going to see some fatigue on this mitigation, in 10 days, 2 weeks. I mean, you can mark my words on that. So I think our policies tried to be, let's do the social distancing in ways that will effectively halt the spread of the virus, but are also sustainable if this ends up going, many weeks and many months. I hope it doesn't, but I think we got to prepare for that. Thanks, everybody.
Governor, we were thinking, could you say hi?
Oh, yeah.